News about the pipeline comes as the Department of Labor releases some new data showing consumer prices have spiked in the last year. Take a look. The Consumer Price Index, which measures what we pay for everyday goods and services, jumped 4.2% in the last 12 months. Gas is up more than 49%, fueling fears of inflation from investors. And joining us tonight to talk about this is Matt Sapala. He's a money expert with PHP Agency, Inc., a financial services marketing company based in Texas. Appreciate your time tonight. First of all, what's driving up the consumer prices right now?
A lot of shortages are happening. By the way, good evening, Marty. Good to be with you. A lot of shortages are happening too as well. The pandemic caused a lot of people not to spend, which caused a lot of business not to procure raw material and commodities, which when spending started and there's a backlog of orders, there's a backlog of inventory, that's when things started to spike up again. And there's just been a shortage of things getting from the raw material manufacturers to actually retail locations for people to access them, thereby creating a huge amount of demand, but not enough supply.
So how long before things start to level off? Some say we needed this reset, a bit of balance.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of experts talking about the summertime happening. Listen, I have a family conversation with the people we love and care about Texas, or different states, and the shortage we have is housing. We just can't simply find a house. We have the credit, we got the money, we got that down payment, but even us as qualified buyers, we can't even afford, or actually we can't even find an affordable house for us in our budget that will allow us to get there. So experts do say, based on things that are projected, maybe summertime by the time supply chains have a chance to catch up, but who knows, it might be even fall, or it may be even worst case scenario, the winter season.
Energy was the only sector that was down just slightly, but we'll see what happens after this pipeline fiasco. In terms of what you're telling people, some guidelines and advice for folks at home to make smart money choices. Yep. Right now, what is the best piece of advice that people can do to pinch some pennies and make sure they're saving smart?
I tapped into some old school wisdom. Warren Buffett, who was born in 1930, he says, when I was born, $1 today, fast forward to 2019, 2020, is worth 6 cents. So number one, wealth building, a large part of that has to be about anticipation. So it might be a wake-up call for us today to make sure that we're saving and investing in ways that outpace inflation. I know this is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to say, but the first thing I would have a conversation with is whoever manages your finances. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an investment advisor, but I would say those who invest your money and save and put your money away, say we need to find a way to outpace inflation. So if inflation is 3-4%, how do I possibly get a 7, 8, 9% in these times? They're out there. The second thing I would say is, instead of you just getting a normal job or jobs to catch up with the cost of goods and services, find ways to consider entrepreneurship. Start a side business. That's what I did when I left the military. When I was in the Marine Corps, a year before I left the Marine Corps, I started a business. I started in the insurance industry. And fast forward today, a guy like me with no college degree, with no sales or financial background, because he learned entrepreneurship and the skills that go along inside of learning entrepreneurship and building a business. Last time I've thought about inflation, I can't remember last time. I was born in 1973. I think it's the last time I worried about inflation. But this is one of those things that will be part of our economy long term. So you have to make sure you either out-earn it or out-invest it to make sure you're ahead of inflation.
All right, and 79 was the last time we saw those lines at the gas stations, as we are seeing right now in the southeast part of the country. Matt, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.